Hi everyone, it's Miss Brenner. I'm here to go over our directions for our project that we're going to be doing after our short story units. With this project, it is worth 60 points, and our due date is going to be the 7th of December. So, with that in mind, let's talk a little bit about your project options. There are two project options for this project. Students will be constructing their choice of a short story within the genre of either fantasy or horror. This should be a brief plot that develops within the limit of 10 to 15 pages. So that would be typed in Times New Roman font, 12-point font, double-spaced, with an MLA heading. So for this, as far as your requirements for the short story creation project, it must be Times New Roman font, 12-point font, double-spaced, with MLA heading. It must have a title of a short story. It must be written in paragraph form. It follows the typical plot diagram, so it has an exposition with rising actions, climax, falling actions, and some form of a resolution. It contains a protagonist and an antagonist, so that can take different forms. It might not be obvious as far as who the protagonist or antagonist is at the beginning, but by the end, if I should ask somebody to create a plot diagram, it would be able to have a protagonist and an antagonist with supporting characters. Characters speak in dialogue, but this is not the major proponent of the story's length. So as you saw with most of our short stories, characters talk to each other throughout the story. There's more than one character within them. But that is not the entirety of the length of the story. So there are other elements that move the plot along. So you, for this choice of your project, essentially are creating your own short story within the genre of either fantasy or horror. If you are unsure as far as what those genres contain, fantasy is a genre of speculative fiction set in a fictional universe, often inspired by real-world myth and folklore. So it contains otherworldly elements that are characteristics expected within the fantasy genre. As far as horror goes, it's a genre of speculative fiction which is intended to frighten, scare, or disgust. It contains a monster that fits one of the three monster categories, so either human morality monster, deadly sins monster, or an abstract monster. Along with that, you must also include some elements of foreshadowing. Most short stories, as you can see, have elements of foreshadowing in them, so that should naturally occur within your own creation of a short story. Along with that, you should be able to incorporate literary lens concepts within your story. That doesn't mean that it needs to be forced. It doesn't need to scream gender lens from the rooftops. It could just be something as simple as you give your characters some identity, and their identity plays into the plot. It could also be looked at through a psychological lens, where maybe it's not that your character is absolutely deranged, but just that they go through some emotional changes throughout the story due to the fact that they grow as a person. So it's not something that has to be forced into your story for it to exist. But at the same time, your story has to have enough plot and enough logical sense to it that it can qualify as a story. So if you are somebody that loves to be creative and to come up with your own characters, your own storylines, your own understated motifs and themes to your stories, this would be the project for you. If you are somebody who does not feel you are as creative and that that part of this project, that option, worries you, I have another option. You could do an analysis project. Students will be constructing a literary analysis essay of their choice of two recommended short stories. This should be an extensive analysis of the plot of two short stories, the author's methods of creating suspense through foreshadowing and tone, and cover two literary lens perspectives for each story within the pages of an 8 to 10 page essay that would be typed in Times New Roman font, 12-point font, double-spaced with MLA heading. So the requirements for this project are obviously that they are typed in Times New Roman font, 12-point font, double-spaced with MLA heading. That it has a proper MLA format, which I will have an example of, with a header, citation page, in-text citations, and cover page. which I will show in my example. That means that this is an 8 to 10 page essay, which includes your cover page and citation page, which means that it would be 6 to 8 pages of 12-point font Times New Roman double-spaced writing. It contains the standard analysis writing format, which means it has an introduction with supporting paragraphs and conclusion. It has a citation page containing all used source material information alphabetized. It has in-text citation giving credit to all used source material. It covers 2 literary lens perspectives per short story. 4 of the 6 foreshadowing signposts are discussed in the analysis of each short story, and there is an identification and analysis of the monster type within each of the stories. I then have a list of all the short story options. So we have The Jaunt by Stephen King, Graveyard Shift by Stephen King, The Third Bear by Vandermeer, Sloan Men by Nichol, Nightmare by McCammon, Abraham's Boys by Joe Hill, and The Specialist Hat by Kelly Link. I also have already provided the MLA citations for you for these short stories, so all you really have to do is understand how to create in-text citations, which would, in this case, only be the author's last name, in parentheses, whenever you use any idea about these short stories. So if you use a quote or you paraphrase information from the story, anything that is not originally your own idea, you would need to cite it with an in-text citation. Alrighty, so these are our 2 options for your project. I have highlighted in orange the essential content that is the same between both projects. So understanding what literary lens content would be and understanding what foreshadowing content would be, along with the monster types and the different genres. If you have any questions about this project, how to complete it, the expectations, please let me know. There are also 2 videos linked underneath these directions that go over the rubric of how the different projects are graded. So if you are choosing to do the creating your own story, which would be the online 2020 science fiction short story project directions, you're going to want to go look at the rubric form of that project. If you are choosing instead to analyze 2 stories, you're going to want to go look at the video that goes over the rubric for the online 2020 science fiction literary analysis project. So please make sure that you look at those before you start your project, and if you have any questions, you speak to me either through email or over Zoom. Alrighty guys, I hope that you guys all have a wonderful Thanksgiving break. Please make sure that you think about this project over break. Don't feel like that there is any rush to work on it over break, but just keep it in the back of your mind. And if you should have any questions, please get a hold of me. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving break, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.